So this is Van Miller. We're back on the latest episode of Blood Money, and today as my guest, I have Robert Beadles. Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me on this podcast. So,
Yeah.
Robert, could you tell us a little bit about your background, what you do?
Well, Robert Beadles. Everybody calls me Beadles since I was a little tiny kid. Christian, husband, father, built some of the biggest businesses in the country. Created tons of like patents and trademarks, and created products for big businesses and solved big problems for big corporations, including our own corporations. Created products that you see on shelves and stores all over the place. Just been very, very busy and blessed, and also Ben Franklin's great nephew. So
Amazing.
great, right? But yeah, anyways, you get the idea.
Beyond all your successes in the business and entrepreneurship world, you've been very involved in our elections. Could you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. I've always felt, kind of a calling towards, the Constitution of sorts. And when we saw what happened in 2020, it was very disheartening because we kept, number one, we thought we knew what was going to happen, and then we saw it happening, and then we saw everything stop and go the opposite of what we saw happening or knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then for months we saw all these people that said they were going to right the wrong and fix things, and they raised a bunch of money and they went out and did all this stuff supposedly, or did nothing at all, which we see a lot of that too. And bottom line, here we are, right? Nothing has changed. The elections aren't any better today than they were in 2020. They're actually much, much worse, especially in the state of Nevada. And so after seeing all these people fail at solving the problem, we put together a team of some of the smartest, greatest people on the planet, actually, here in Nevada back around January of 2021, to actually dig into Nevada and see what happened, see who did what, how it happened, prove that it happened, prove, what the outcome would have been had it not happened, and then try to create a safeguard for the 2022 primaries to keep 2020 from happening again, because this isn't a partisan issue. This isn't like a Republican thing. Like they love to paint me as some kind of crazy right-wing person. First of all, I don't know what's wrong with being right. And, I'm a constitutionalist. We the people, I think everybody's voice and vote should count equally, especially if it's a legitimate vote. So we dug in, figured out what happened, proved that there was fraud beyond belief just with the machines, not even to mention the mail-in ballots and that entire scheme. They started painting me as some kind of, election, truther. So finally, what I did is I just posted our research and the proof and the facts on Operation Sunlight, and offered a $30,000 bounty to anybody that would prove us wrong. And every PhD, that jumped at the opportunity, they all quickly found that we were right. And so these races that we were told, even if like Stavros up in Clark County, where he lost by like a dozen votes, he won by tens of thousands of votes. All right. That's how much, for lack of a better word, fuckery there is in our election system. So we proved it out. Then we figured out, okay, so for 2022, how are we going to keep 2020 from happening again? So we basically assembled some of the greatest volunteers on the planet, put together some amazing surveillance teams, ex-military, some still current military. And then we sued in Clark County and Washoe County, which the press will say that we lost. Oh, there was no evidence. What it was, observation lawsuits that allow us meaningful observation in Clark County and Washoe County to ensure that we don't have what happened in 2020 happen to us again in 2022, meaning that they can't kick us out of the room for 10 days and then tell us what the election results are and expect us just to believe them. Mm-hmm. We won. Yeah, we actually won those lawsuits regardless of what the press wants to say. So, and we didn't present evidence because we weren't trying to say that the elections are fraudulent. We just wanted to prove that we needed meaningful observation, and we got it. So we won in those two counties. We set up shop before the election started, and then we basically observed the entire process of the election from before it started, during the process of it, up until today, from within the register of voters, from within the polling places, from outside, from the chain of custody when they're supposed to be picking up ballots from the post office and bringing them to the register of voters, or from the polling location to the register of voters. And we quickly were able to see all these gross absurdities that are, they're like crimes almost. I mean, when you violate the NRSs, I guess that would be a crime. I mean, they literally threw every election rule and regulation under the bus in this election, and we can prove it. So we literally have hundreds of witnesses, probably 1,000 affidavits, gigabytes, maybe terabytes, a video, photo, audio, recording all this, catching people, basically admitting that, that they're breaking rules. All of it, it's all documented. And we quickly show that this election in 2022 is completely uncertifiable if they're going to be servants of we the people and not like criminals, right? And just tell us this is the way it is and accept it. So what we've done is we've put basically the entire state on notice. We basically had our attorneys put everything in writing for the Secretary of State, the district attorneys, the AG, all the county commissioners, the register of voters, and listed some of the gross absurdities that make this election uncertifiable. All right. And that's before we even get into the data, like what the votes really should have been. This is just like things that, like, they destroyed our secret ballot. Like, they literally, not only can people see who you're voting for on machines, anybody that grabs your envelope that your ballot contains that you're going to like mail off knows exactly who you are. They know, what party you're a part of. They know what precinct you're in, all your voter information. We found that the EMS machines are hooked up to the internet right after CISA told us all the issues with these voting machines and their vulnerabilities. We see that the audit that the register of voters does to like certify an election doesn't include the mail-in ballots. So they want to audit before they say you can certify, but they don't audit the mail-in ballots, which make up about 50 to 60% of the entire election. We've got staff that worked the elections that were from out of state, that were from one party, not bipartisan. So in other words, you're supposed to have equal representation when not only in the transport of ballots, but also the tabulation of ballots. You're supposed to have like a Republican and a Democrat. What we found were like hired temp workers, and many of them were coming in out-of-state vehicles, and all of them seemed to be from one party, not from multiple parties. We saw that. We saw that every single ballot that came in on election day and election night broke chain of custody. There was one person in the vehicle dropping off the ballots that came from God knows where. We saw that there was like next to no signature verification. People were literally just clicking the button, not even verifying signatures. There was so many things that they were using trainees as polling managers. Everything that I'm mentioning to you are like basically statutes within the NRS that these people have violated. With no chain of custody, you can't convict a murder, even if you have like the so-called murder weapon. But yet, with no chain of custody on any of our ballots, they're going to try to certify an election on Friday. So, we're prepared for that as well. We have candidates that are all on board with this. And the things that I just mentioned to you are just a small smidgen of what we have. Obviously, we have to save the really good stuff for court, which I'm sure will be coming. But in a nutshell, you can't certify the election. When they certify the election, because I'm sure they don't care about breaking the law, what it appears anyway. Then our candidates, are going to be contesting the election across the state. And then from there, we're really in uncharted waters. There's lots of things that we plan on doing, we hope to do, and God willing, we will be able to do. But I can't talk about that right now. We can't give these people our playbook, right? But they do know that when they certify the canvass, which would be a crime in many legal scholars and attorneys' viewpoints, because they're literally at an individual level being told, on Wednesday, hey, look, here's all these things that make this election totally impossible to certify. It's literally a crime. And then these people at an individual level are going to certify it. That would actually be a crime in itself, so we're told. So we'll see when that happens. And then when it happens, the candidates that contest the election across the state are going to have access to really dig in deep to this entire election process. So we'll just see what happens from there. But what I would really like to see happen is for all the Nevadans and for people across the country to get a really good look at how corrupt our election system is. Not just, the press, how they love to cover things up and say we're some kind of crazy wackadoo that, just doesn't know, we're a bunch of sore losers, when anybody with an IQ over 60 knows that there's some serious issues with our election, not only in 2022, but obviously in 2020. And what we find is everything that's happening to us in this county, the state, our country, our world is all due to failed elections, because these policies that are literally making your gas twice as expensive, your rent twice as expensive, the unaffordability of homes, the twice the price for groceries. All this stuff are come from policies from really bad politicians. And if they have a way to manipulate the election system, which we can prove that they do, and there's 30,000 bucks out there for any of you listening that want to prove me wrong, by all means, join the long line that's tried. You'll quickly see that these people that should not be in office are the ones destroying our country and our families. And until enough people actually wake up and get involved and say, you know what, I've had enough of this crap. I don't want to work 2, 3, 4 jobs just to barely get by. You know what? I want to actually live. And when I look around, the people that are doing this to me are so-called leaders, and they're supposed to be servants. They're supposed to be public servants, right? And we just keep being let down by these people. But then when you step outside of the mirage of just being let down by incompetence, you quickly realize that, wait a minute, it's because our election system is completely corrupt and we have selections, not elections. And both sides use it. And that's why when you see them raise $250 million for election integrity in 2020, look around, what's happened? Hopefully some good people in there will stand up and say, you know what? It's time. It's time that they start doing some stuff. And in Nevada, unless we can constitutionally fix our election system between now and the general, it's a wrap. Like, we're going into straight like communism at best. You can see that they keep installing all of these CRT type candidates, these communist type candidates. They go against the moral foundation of every American. I would say 80% of the country is against this from all of our surveys and from our door knocking, yet somehow these people are winning by astronomical numbers that make absolutely no sense at all when they have no name recognition whatsoever. And they're running against candidates that have strong name recognition, strong moral foundations and constitutional principles. And somehow these people lose. It literally means that no Republican shows up and votes, and the nonpartisans in some of these, like these school board races and things like that, somehow they just 7x their numbers, and the Democrats, show up as well, and no Republicans do. And even if the nonpartisans and the Democrats showed up for these CRT candidates, it still wouldn't be enough to overcome the Republicans that that would have voted, because they still would have won. And when you look at the numbers, you can see already that this election is completely corrupt. And that's why they're trying to basically reshape America. They're trying to take it away from us. So they start with our kids, and they start programming our kids at an early age. And then what they do is they go after our judges. And nobody thinks a big deal about these like justice of the peaces and these district court judges and things like that. And you'll see that they start installing them there too. So that way parents, when they go to the school board, they're like, yo, I don't like what you're teaching my kids. This stuff is not going to make them successful. This stuff is going to make them a servant. And then when you get nowhere there and you're trying to go to the courts, well, guess what? You got another installed, commie there. So people are waking up to this, but obviously not fast enough. And we definitely need a change. We absolutely need to constitutionally correct our election system, or we're going to lose our country in this very next election. You'll see in 2 to 10 years, it's a wrap. We're done. And none of this is by the actual voters' choices. I'm telling you, they're actually stealing it from us, and people are just, worried about being called names. They're worried about, being, put in prison or something. They're worried about all these types of things, but what they really need to worry about is their families, right? And if this continues, it's going to destroy their families. It's going to destroy their way of life. It's going to destroy our country, everything else. So now is the time to get involved and stop being scared. Now is the time to say enough, get involved, show up, stand up, speak out, all that kind of stuff. Right now is absolutely the time.
Well, I think that $30,000 reward for anybody to disprove you, I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to say something, right? But it's another thing to prove it. And we've conclusively proved it. And rather than just the media just, calling me a truther or some crazy, election conspiracy theorist, I'm like, well, you know what then? Let's gamify this a little bit. Let's throw 30,000 bucks on the line. And if we're wrong, come get my money. And then the narrative completely, shifted. And now I'm just a crazy right winger from California. But it's like, guys, I've been in Nevada since 95. Nobody would know my name if this place wasn't so corrupt. And I'm not a right winger. I'm, constitutionalist. I believe, I think both parties are completely screwed up. And what we need to do is get back to the basics. It's called our Constitution, and not try to change it, but actually follow it. And none of these issues, we wouldn't have any of these issues if people just, went back towards God and just followed the Constitution. We'd be, amazing again. But people are always trying to change things and delete things and say, oh, it's an old document that doesn't work. And I agree, it doesn't work. But why? Well, because they don't follow it, right?
Mhm.
They find any way to basically say, oh, it's not relevant. That doesn't pertain to this. And then basically do the opposite of it and look around. Now we see what's happening.
The things you listed in terms of the issues of 2022, I mean, that's a mighty long list. The way I see this, and tell me if I'm incorrect, basically you conducted a sting operation on 2022.
Yeah. That's
You had people
and,
embedded, you had people, it seems like you had people in the DMV, you had people at polling booths. How long did it take to plan that out?
I guess since January of 2021, because essentially we looked through and found all the issues with that. And then so going forward, we had to know what they did. And then we had to be able to prove that they did it again or they're trying to do it again. And we've just given a small smidgen of what we found, which makes it completely uncertifiable. And then obviously we'll show way more damning stuff here in the future. But I think the candidates, by contesting the races, is going to show a lot of that as well. But yeah, I mean, this was not something we just put together in a night. This is something we thought out, and we have an amazing team, incredible team, and it wouldn't have been possible without God and them. But we've caught them. I mean, there's no way to certify this election, and the results that are being announced are absolutely wrong. They're absolutely wrong.
I mean, conducting a sting. I mean, in a correct world, in a constitutional world, that seems like that would be something that's like the job of the police department.
You would think that, right? I mean, I took the information first to the sheriff, the district attorney, the Department of Justice, county commissioners, county managers, register of voters. I think the FBI, all of it, crickets. And I literally have tons of these people on video where they're shown the evidence and they refuse to do anything with it. So it ends up, just like our declaration says, at some point it falls back on we the people. So we the people got involved and we got them.
You'd have to be a very cynical person to say this Robert Beadles guy is putting his time and his dime. I'm sure this stuff has cost you a fortune. You've obviously employed law firms. It seems like there's no logic in the argument that this Robert Beadles guy is this off the rocker right wing guy spending potentially tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions on trying to fortify our elections. What do you tell to those people?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent millions and I'll spend millions more. But again, this isn't like for personal gain. I'm not making a penny off any of this stuff, right? I support, probably over 50 candidates. I help them, fund them, help give them the things that they need to be, as successful as they possibly can. I'm trying to help take back our country. My great uncle helped found it, right? So it's kind of like in my DNA. It's one of those things where, like a bird. How does a bird know to make a nest? It's weird, right? They're just hatched, and next thing you know, they're making nests and having babies and all this stuff. They don't know how they're doing it. They just do it. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like I solve problems for a living, and I see that this is a huge problem, and there's really nowhere to go. Like America is pretty much, the last place, and if this falls, everything falls, right? So we're going to end up as serfs. So I decided to get involved because everybody else kept letting us down. I didn't want to do it. I literally, it's my wife's fault, because I'm like, I'll just, write a little essay or do a little video and explain to people the issues and how to solve them, kind of like a patent.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, people need to be shown. You can't tell them, you have to show them. So I've just been trying to show people what's going on. I get attacked like crazy, but I just try to show people, and believe it or not, I got way more people with us than against us. And the people that are against us are usually the people that are trying to keep this in place, right? These are usually the people that are benefiting from this, that are making money from this, that are literally, their power and everything, comes from this, and they don't want to lose it. Right. So when you look at people that attack me, look at them personally. Look at me personally. I've been with my wife since we were 14 years old, came from nothing, welfare, food stamps, built some of the most successful businesses in the country. Try to find dirt on me. They all have. I'm a simple, boring guy. I just solve problems and build things. I'm not doing this for money at all, period. I'm not making money. I'm spending millions. Like,
and you're being like constantly like, tarnished by their lies.
When people attack me, I'm used to it ever since I was a little kid, right? That doesn't bother me. Like when the Huffington Post interviewed me, they never ran that article. because they're like, holy crap, he's not a right winger. He's not crazy. He's literally just trying to help save the country before we lose it all.
Yeah, yeah. If there was three things that had to be done in order to really reclaim our democracy here, our republic, our constitutional values,
it is very simple. It's two things. People need to go back towards God, and we need to fix our elections constitutionally. You do those two things, you solve everything, because everything that you see happening in this country, in this world, is all bad policies by bad politicians who got into office by the most part through selections instead of elections. If we have safe, secure, transparent constitutional elections for every American, right, you're going to end up getting a different type of politician. The people that actually should have won will win, and they're going to do things that that 80% of America wants done, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at our schools, the CRT, all that crap, again, it comes from politicians. When you look at these crazy inflation, all that type of stuff comes from failed politicians. Up in DC, they're like, how are you going to fix inflation in Clark County? It's like, are you high? Like, you need to fix it in DC. They're the ones over there printing money like monopoly money, giving it away to everybody. They're all making monies with both fists, while all of us for the rest of our lives and our next 10 generations of family members are the ones paying their bills. Like, it's ridiculous, and it all goes back to elections. So God and elections, there you go.
In terms of the election issues for 2022 that you'd like to talk about that we haven't discussed?
So the only way that we're going to solve the issues with our elections in Nevada that other states can easily copy paste, because Nevada is actually the worst, according to Rasmussen, for election integrity, right? We're number 50. Like, people see 2,000 mules, they're like, oh my God, that's insane. Like, well, yeah, dude, that's every day in Nevada. It's like all legal here. Like, that is completely legal here. Like, what? Like, yeah, that's legal. You can do all that stuff here for the most part. So what we have to do, right, is you have to educate the public. The public needs to speak up. They need to say, enough of this shenanigans. I'm tired of paying for your bills. I'm tired of you destroying my country. I'm tired of you destroying my life. It's time that, we put an end to this crap. And then we need to get rid of AB 321. So AB 321, all kinds of, we could talk for hours on that, but basically it mails out a ballot to just about everybody. And so these ballots become like fun coupons. They're just littered all over the state, and people can just gather them up and sign them and fill them out, send them in. And there's nobody at the ROV that's checking signatures. So all those votes are counting, and they're not legitimate votes. So you have that. You have no ID, right? So you need identification to buy beer, a pack of cigarettes, to go into the DNC, right? To get on a plane. But somehow it's racist, and you got people like the NAACP that say, "Oh, well, if you're requiring IDs, it disenfranchises, minorities." That's like the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life. It's basically saying that Black people are too stupid to get an ID. Are you kidding? You need an ID for everything. But somehow, when it comes to our elections, this small group of people, they make a ton of noise and they say it's racist. So we have no ID here. Ballots to everybody here. It's the most ridiculous thing. And so we have to abolish AB 321 before the next election. And we need voter ID. And I'll take it a step further. If you really want to fix this constitutionally, we go back 20 years and we have what's called precinct level voting or district level voting, where literally for one day, people that live in that district or live in that precinct vote in that district or that precinct. And those votes are counted by people that live in that district or that precinct. And literally in 2 hours after the polls close, we will know who won. It's that simple. Yeah. We don't need election month and a half like we have in Nevada. We could literally have election day. So precinct level voting, election day, not election month, ID, get rid of AB 321. You will see a completely different state within a year. Like, you won't even, you'll be like, my God, this is America. Everybody would flock here. Like, it'd be insane. The amount of money, prosperity, wealth, happiness that would happen in Nevada for all parties would just change, literally just right away.
I know from experience when I was out there knocking on doors, helping out candidates, that I ran into quite a few people that told me that they're a 3-person household that's getting 7 or 10 ballots.
What could go wrong? And then we've been doing exit polls. We've literally been calling people that supposedly voted in this election. And I can't tell you how many of them say that they didn't vote, but there's a ballot cast form. And then, of course, the people that they say that they voted for are the complete opposite of what the Register of Voters is reporting. We have huge issues. And if we allow this to stay, again, we lose our country. So yes, I could be on an island. Yes, I could, just be flying all over the world, living it up. But again, we'll lose our country. So then I have nowhere to go back to, and eventually it'll find me there too. So it's just a matter of doing the right thing now versus, saying, man, I wish I did something, a couple years ago, because now it's too
Yeah.
late.
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you think the immediate future holds? I mean, you've had this, you filed a suit. It sounds like there's more action coming. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So tomorrow, Friday, they're going to be certifying the vote, basically certifying the crimes. I'm pretty positive they're going to do that because they have a track record of selling us out, right? So why would tomorrow be any different? And then the candidates will contest their election because they absolutely should. There's no way this election should be going forward. And that's going to allow all these candidates this magic word called discovery. And so with discovery, they'll be able to look at, ballots. They'll be able to ask questions of people. They'll be able to do all kinds of things that the average citizen cannot. And there's a very short window for them to be able to do this. And so you're going to see that across the state, which is going to be at that juncture, it's going to be very eye-opening to many Nevadans and many people across the country, because they're going to get a look into the election system, the election process, and the people that are running it, and the shenanigans that they've been doing. So from that point, it's this is all uncharted waters. I can see how everything works in my mind. I'm used to solving problems and building things. But there's like many different paths it can go, and I see about 7. So it's too early to say, but again, if we're successful, we'll probably know in the next month or two. If we're not, we'll probably know in the next month or two. But at the same time, we'll be fighting on a different front as well, trying to clean up the elections for the general. But my fear is that if we're not able to clean up the election now and right these wrongs before it's certified, or just shortly thereafter it's certified, in the general, we're going to be stuck with Coke and Pepsi, right? We're going to be stuck with the same types of people that continually sell us out, regardless of party. People think, oh, if all Republicans are in, it's great. Like, look around, man. I'm like, it doesn't matter if Republicans are in charge or Democrats are in charge. They're always selling us out. Both of them are. What we need are constitutional people with just common sense, just God-fearing, moral people in charge. Forget political parties. Literally, you just need moral people, that fear God, fear repercussions, fear consequences of selling people out, following the Constitution, and we would have a much, much different, country. And so where we go in the next few months is going to be telling for sure. We're going to see a lot in the next week or two. But God willing, we'll win, because I can't say it enough, man. It's up to God. We can just keep putting in the work. We just put in the work, and it's up to him to bring it home.
Yeah, hopefully God sends some good judges along the way.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the time.
It's always great to hang with you, Ben.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
God bless you and your audience. And yeah.
God bless you too. Thank you so much for your time.